When you learn to transform your habits, you can transform your life. In this video, we'll explore the concept of habits, how good habits are formed, how bad habits can be broken, and by the end of this video, I'm sure you'll have a great idea of how to shape and transform your habits to live your best life. Hi, I'm Carol Mould. For more tips and advice on how to realize your potential and live your best life, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Tuesday. With my background in organizational psychology and project management, my YouTube channel focuses on the intersection between these two areas, that is, soft skills and leadership skills. Let's talk about the science behind habits for a moment. Don't worry, it won't go on too long for those that are less nerdy about the science. There's a process that happens as we age called synaptic pruning. Synapses are connections between the neurons in your brain. The basic idea is that your brain prunes away connections between neurons that don't get used often and builds up connections between the neurons that get used more frequently. For example, if you practice playing the piano for several years, then your brain will strengthen the connections between those musical neurons. The more you play, the stronger the connections become, and they will also become faster and more efficient with practice. It becomes easier to express your skills with practice, and this is how we develop skills and form new habits. On the other hand, someone who's never played the piano is not strengthening those musical connections in their brain, and their brain will prune away those unused connections and focus energy rather on building connections for other skills that they are practicing. Babies are born with brains that are like a blank canvas. They have a lot of neurons full of potential, but they don't yet have any strong connections between their many neurons. Adults, however, have pruned away a good deal of the neurons that they were born with, but they have developed strong connections between the remaining neurons that support the skills that they practice frequently. So let's have a look at how habits work. The process of building a habit can be divided into 4 simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. Breaking it down into these fundamental parts can help us understand what a habit is, how it works, and how to improve it. Your mind is continuously analyzing your internal and external environment for clues of where the rewards are located. The cue suggests to us that we're close to a reward and we begin to crave the reward. What we crave is not the action itself, but the feeling that we'll get from taking the action. For example, you do not just want to put YouTube on, but rather you want to be entertained or educated by the content that you'll consume on YouTube. Cravings differ from one person to the next, so you need to understand what your own cravings are and what cues mean to you. For example, a gambler sees a casino and craves the feeling they get from gambling. Another person may see the same casino, but really not take much notice of it at all. The third step is the response, which could be a thought or an action. Your action depends on your motivation, your ability, and how easy it is to do the action. If you're not motivated enough, or there's too much friction or difficulty in taking the action, you're much less likely to do it. Finally, the response delivers the reward that you're after. In other words, it satisfies the craving that took place earlier in the cycle. We can break the cycle at each step. If we remove the cue, the habit won't begin. Reduce the craving, and you won't be motivated enough to take the action. Make the action too difficult, and you won't be able to do it. And if the reward is insufficient, then you won't feel like repeating the behavior next time. The cycle is known as the habit loop. Let's take an example. The cue in this example is that we wake up. The craving is that we want to feel alert to start our day. Our response perhaps is to drink coffee. And the reward is that we do feel more alert once we've had our caffeine fix for the day. Let's look further at how we can build habits and stack habits upon one another. You probably have strong connections and habits that you take for granted. Certainly the example in the previous slide is one of mine. I know I need my cup of coffee each morning. We can call these foundation habits, things that are already in place. By linking new habits to a cycle that is already built into your brain, you make it more likely that you'll stick to the new behavior. This is where habit stacking comes into play. And the habit stacking formula is, we could say something like, after or before a current habit, I will do the new habit. So for example, before I have my cup of coffee, I will read for 10 minutes. This is a bit of a meta example. Most of the ideas in this video come from this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'll put a link to his book and also to his website in the description below. And I really recommend looking at the website and getting a copy of the book. It's available in Kindle format and also in Audible, as well as the usual paperback and hardback. Once we have habits in place, we can start to stack or chain extra habits and link them to the existing habits. So my morning routine habit stack might look like this. I will read for 10 minutes. After I read, I'll have my cup of coffee. After my coffee, I'll write my to-do list for the day using the Pomodoro technique. If you want to learn more about the Pomodoro technique, please watch my video on the topic. I'll put a link below, but please watch this video to the end first before you move on to that one. So from the author James Clear, let's have a look at his laws that help us to promote good habits and to reduce bad habits. So if we look at the cue and we're thinking of trying to reinforce good habits, the first thing that we can do is to make them more obvious, make them more visible, perhaps by writing them down. We can make the craving more attractive. There's a technique called temptation bundling, where we link an action that we want to do with one that we need to do, or that we're choosing to adopt. Hence the example of linking the coffee with the reading. We can also do something we enjoy before a difficult task. In terms of the response, we want to make it easier to take the response. If a new habit, for example, is drinking more water, make sure you've got a bottle of water on your desk so that it's easy to drink more water. And then in the reward step, make that more satisfying. We can come up with extra rewards for doing the tasks that we want to do. We could use a habit tracker, and James Clear has some examples on his website. We can see our progress and be satisfied to see that we can tick off the habits as we repeat it. Now let's go around again and look at how we can reduce bad habits. So at the cue step, we can, instead of making cues more obvious for good habits, we can make them invisible for bad habits. Remove cues from your environment. So for example, if you're eating too many cookies, remove the cookies from the house and stop buying them. For the craving step, we can make the craving less attractive. We can remind ourselves of the consequences of the bad habit. An example that comes to mind here is to make yourself look at those awful pictures that they put on cigarette packs these days. Make the response more difficult. If we don't buy the cookies, we won't be able to eat them. And make the reward less satisfying or unsatisfying. A good idea that I've come across here is to have a habit contract and do this with an accountability partner. For example, commit in your contract that if you do this bad habit again, that you will make a donation to a cause that you disagree with, perhaps making a campaign contribution to the party that you really don't want to support in an election. Some parting thoughts from James Clear. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Coupled with the next one, that habits can compound for you or against you. So if we're building good habits, compound interest is really great because a little improvement every day makes a huge improvement in the long term. And if we're trying to reduce bad habits, again, a little improvement or little reduction each day will pay off in the long term. Just as atoms are the building blocks of molecules, atomic habits are the building blocks of remarkable results. I hope you now have a better idea of how new habits are formed and how to use existing habits to create new ones. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Tuesday. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!